And then go into the experience with an open heart and mind of what could happen. And then these are things to consider when creating. How is the lighting? What does it sound like? Revamp the bathrooms. I think they're completely overloaded space. Every detail matters. Every single little detail, down to a piece of paper or a fake email, or just sending out information where it's in the same kind of color palette or word phrasing, kind of goes in the same mindset of marketing or branding. What are they doing? They're also doing design work. Every detail matters of how you present your product. Humorous printouts, just another example. Games, how can you incorporate improv games, costumes and uniforms. Creates a sense of camaraderie. Everybody's in the same space together. So those are just like easy, quick, accessible items for designing an experience. And then what experience has impacted you to the point that it has changed how you interact in the world? And then how can you be inspired by that experience and create something that you have done yourself? So that is my talk. Thank you.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? Who's clapping?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Questions? Do you have audio?
Shelby, first of all, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Cool. So anyone have any questions in the audience? I have a bunch of notes. I love to react and ask some questions from Shelby, but I want to give you time first. Don't be shy. I will keep a very awkward pause.
And so for those of you also, you met Jess briefly. If you're interested next year in joining a Chateau du Fay, it's reasonably priced. You just have to get a plane ticket to Paris, and I think it's like
a brief interview process and just seeing what kind of timing works out. And it's only about 4 months.
Yeah, it's 4 months out of the year. So if you're interested in coming and meeting interesting people, it's I highly encourage it. It's and it's very reasonably priced as well too. And so with that, I'd like to thank, if there are no questions and everything, I'd like to thank Shelby once again for giving the talk.
Gina, I do have quite a bit of stuff. I'm just waiting for someone in the room, but it seems like nobody yet ready to ask a question. But I do want to chat a little bit. If you don't mind, can
Hold
I
Hold on. Sure. Ilya, I'm supposed to be at another talk. We're here at a workshop that started at 1 o'clock, so I'm going to excuse myself.
Okay, no problem. I will take it.
And then for the students, I'll see you guys next week. I'll be back in Hong Kong next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
I'll hang out and I can answer questions.
Thank you.
So,
Shelby, first of all, thank you so much. It was amazing. I'm sorry for the setup. It's a bit awkward. You probably don't see the students, right? Do you?
I see the backs of everyone's head.
Okay, cool. They were actually waving and cheering and some were recording. So, of course, as usual, in a big audience, you have different level of engagement, but you get the room. It's a big deal. I really love that I saw tea in one of your slides. I'm a big tea guy, and I think tea is an incredible instrument for creating experience. For me, it was absolutely transformative, so I'm really happy to see that. Thank you for mentioning bathrooms. Very early in my career, someone really got deep into that, and it's kind of awkward, but they mentioned about how bathrooms, the way bathrooms look, really reflect on the whole society. And I found it exceptionally important. I grew up in Russia. I moved to Hong Kong 10 years ago. I'm a user experience designer, but I do design for 20 years, kind of go across different disciplines. So for me, it was really connecting with what you're saying. If you want to build experience in the space, looking at the forgotten places which people usually go, but others maybe not considering as part of the experience for some reason, it's really important. It really creates something new.
Yeah. I completely agree. Bathrooms and even like offices, or it depends on the space that is being used. The boiler room.
Agree, yeah. I love to go to the space and get a look at all the hidden small places, and there's a cleaning lady storing her stuff and what is behind the scene. This is my favorite stuff. Then I really noticed that you mentioned about Zendom, Cozy, all of that, and one thing you said is about enthusiastic yes, right? So non-binary consent. it's something I find incredibly important in my work. And well, in some settings like this one, I kind of expect you to engage, right? But I cannot really expect everyone equally to engage. And there's no like a direct way for me to ask consent for students to be or not be here. Of course, always I want you to be in the room. I want you to be present with us and have a conversation. I think it goes even deeper when you have like a massive event on stage, right? Like you don't know when people come, with what they come, right? So this level of enthusiastic yes, I'm thinking about it as a process when you create the whole sign up for something, right? When you create the process like a funnel to make sure that people who in the room are the right people for the experience you're going to deliver. So this really resonates with me and something I'm trying to learn and apply in my work. Some of you are in entrepreneurship class. The first one was really tough for me because of that. Because I used to work with people, small groups who really buy in. And at the university setting, it's not always possible. Especially with bachelor students who are forced in. I know you master students, you probably choose to be here, but with bachelors, it was a bit tougher. Love the idea about random, not randomness, right? What you mentioned about space giving you some kind of meaning, but it's related to the space. So it's not really random, but it's maybe random in comparison to a human conversation, right? Last I want to mention, I'm not sure if I heard right, did you mention protopias?
Did I mention what?
The word protopia. Utopia, dystopia, protopia. Are you familiar?
Oh, so Faytopia. So
Faytopia.
Chateau. Yeah, and so the portmanteau of Faytopia.
Okay, what it
Yeah.
is? Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so that was the introduction that Gino had walked around, showed everyone the chateau, the castle. Everyone that's here right now is part of Faytopia. And Faytopia is that residency, co-working community 4-month period that I'm, in currently. And it's because outside of these 4 months, the chateau is for weddings, it's events, it's
Yep.
different, they have an art festival, yeah.
Okay, so I want to share something with you. There's something which called protopia. It's coined by someone else, but I heard about it from Monica Bell-Skite. She's a futurist, and she gave a lot of talks in the last maybe 5 years and big conferences as well. She's incredible. And if you never heard from her, I encourage you to do that. And she really defined protopia as a positive prototype of a future, which really distinguishes itself from utopia, which is kind of like idealistic view with embedded meaning that it's not going to happen. Or even worse, utopia is something which implies dystopia, right? So a good example could be a flying city in the skies and everyone wears white and only white people are there for some reason. So it kind of implies that everybody else may be in a much less cool place. I do feel like protopia as a term is an attempt to remove binary idea of a future, make it practical, make it shareable, and build a prototype. So we do have a conference and a festival in Hong Kong called From Our Future, where we build protopias. And I will use this opportunity to invite you, virtually or in person. If you have opportunity, please join us. It will be in May in Hong Kong.
Okay.
That could be cool. What else?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're gorgeous, and I was really impressed with this presentation. I didn't expect. I randomly ended up here. I didn't plan to be in this space tonight. Gina literally told me like an hour ago, like, hey, you should join. And he knows me well, so he knows I can improvise and do the talk. And I did share, because I was applying for a fellowship for my company tonight, I did record a bunch of videos. I'm not going to share videos, but I kind of prepared for what I'm going to share about. The last thing I wanted to check with you is, it's a book, 2017, Priya Packer, Art of Gathering.
Art of Gathering?
Yeah.
Priya Packer. Okay.
Okay, so this is
Not
a book.
familiar with it.
So she's Priya Packer. She grew up in America. Her parents unfortunately split up, and her mother from India, and her father is a white guy, Republican, right? And mother was very democratic. So imagine growing up in a household which is divided across ideological lines so much. So mother is more spiritual and kind of inclusive and plural, and father is very, independent, individualistic, pushing for small government, and she's pushing for big government. So she grew up in this environment, navigated it well, and eventually became a facilitator for to try to help people to stop wars. I hope someone will eventually send her to Ukraine and to Russia to figure it out, because we need people like that. She's writing about how to gather people and who host events from 5 people to 15 people to 50 people to 150 people, and then what happens if you go further. Each of these sizes implies and demands different design. You cannot host an audience like this the same way you host a small gathering over tea. You cannot, remember we did workshop? 6 people? That was incredible. Such a great connection, right? But I cannot do the same in this room. I cannot expect the same in this room. I will try. I will try to connect. But it is unrealistic to create the same level of experience. Thank you so much again. I love your jacket. I don't know what it is, but is it like a silk or not?
It's not silk. It's like a thicker fabric, but it is shiny and gold, and it's really cold here, so
it fits you well. It goes so well with the presentation style. I love it.
Thank you. I mean, I dress myself as an art piece as much as my art is art itself.
Yeah, I noticed the rings as well. So you giant in Hong Kong right now, you giant on the screen in Hong Kong right now. It's a unique experience.
I can see it. I'm watching myself in delay.
Look how tiny I am and how giant you are. Okay, this one. How much time do you have?
Thank you.
How many?
Okay, I'm gonna go. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll get your contact from Chico.
They're all waiting. I will give my talk in 10 minutes. If you want, you can stay. If you need to go, you need to go.
I do have to go. I am actually leaving the chateau today, so I have to finish packing.
Okay, I will reach to you probably LinkedIn or WhatsApp or whatever. Gina will connect us. So we'll continue conversation after that. I'm going to talk about design for good tonight. Bye. Okay, you have 10 minutes and I have material for an hour. So I will be very quick. Very early in my career, I have a very strong push and pull in my heart to do good. And I became a designer. I started practicing very early. I started building website first, 97, 98. I started building apps. I opened my studio. And then my studio got acquired. So I built an enterprise level system. And then in 2010, I was hired by a very fast growing startup. And the startup had, at the time, 30 million users, mostly in America. And when I started really looking into that, I realized that these users are miserable. The experience they were getting from the startup was making them sick, making them leave their families, making them spend money they didn't have, putting them into debt. And my boss came to me and said, hey, your job is to make as much money as possible from this business. And I was at the time responsible, very suddenly, I was just still quite young, right? So this is me, so it's 2010, this is me I'm 38 now, right? So it's me, 26. So imagine me, skinnier, 26 years old, responsible for 50 people, direct reports, giant office, having this responsibility, and I built 5 teams: advertisement, production team, internal team, and main team was not really reporting to me because I was relatively new. I was only 2 months into the company, and I got promoted suddenly. And I had this responsibility to extract as much money as possible from my users. And users are Americans, right? And I'm in Russia. And Russians we hate Americans, we don't care. Keep do that. And I felt so conflicted. And I quit. I had probably the best salary at the time. It was my highest salary. It was double from I had before. So imagine you started working, right? So maybe you get like 35K Hong Kong and you consider it good, right? But then you kind of like, okay, I need to go up, maybe 40. I want to maybe have a family eventually, right? So maybe 45, and then maybe 50, and then you quit and you hire to another company and they give you 100, right? 100 per month. So that's how I felt at the time. I was having twice what I had before. And it was really hard for me to make this decision to say no to the money and quit. Well, I did. But it's not all about me. This talk is about this idea of why we do what we do and what power we have as designers. For me, it's ended up well. I quit and ended up in China, 2011, and built a project I liked more. And over time, got access to the global market and this conversation, 2011, 12, I think. I was in Scotland for the very first time ever abroad in Europe. And there was a lady on stage talking about ethics. And she really called out at the time, Facebook, I think Instagram was not a thing yet or was really small. And she said, like, these guys are not doing ethical work. They catching your attention and selling it to a bigger bidder. Someone who have money can influence you in a way which was impossible before. Now, 10 years later, we live into this world when you're exceptionally distracted because of technology. The girls is 30% more to suicide because of technology. And it's a big question, how are we going to design for good? And what the hell good even means? When I quit this company, my boss at the time sit down with me, he's a very receptive guy. He looked me directly into the eyes, and he told me, what do you want to do? Why are you quitting? I want to do something good. He was like, okay, define good, what it is. Tell me what it is. And I feel so intimidated, like this dude, like a boss, looking me into the eyes and saying, what is good? And he told me, like, I will make you a millionaire in 1 year. Do good after that with your million. But right now, you need to squeeze these guys in America. And you need to make another million, and another million, and another million for this company, and then I will give you one, no problem. I was quite shocked with that. I quit anyway. And then I keep asking this question to myself, so what it means to design for good? Let's take an example right now. Maybe you know Tesla? Anyone know Tesla? Cool. So it's electric car, right? It's also a very fast car. It's also supposed to be a safe car. Not that much, but according to like ratings, it's amazing, right? Is it good to build electric cars? Anyone feel like it's a good design? It's a good idea? Well, I certainly did, right? When I saw electric cars for the very first time and heard Elon Musk preaching that, I was like, damn, this is really good. Let's do that. Well, every electric car, similar to every laptop you're using right now and every iPhone, have cobalt inside because of the batteries. And cobalt is mined in mines. And mines operated unethically, including child labor and slavery, today, right now. So if you kind of look at the supply chain of an electric car, you may be like, oh, it's a good thing, but supply chain is kind of bad. We need to fix that, right? By the way, mostly operated by Chinese nationals, Chinese corporations. So there's clearly like an ethical problem because it's Africa, right? So they can do that. This problem was revealed in, I think, 2007 or 8. It's much worse today. It's not better. It's not like we don't know. We know. We know that every piece of battery is unethical. But should we just discard them, not use technology at all? Be pure? Well, we cannot. We need to engage with the world the way it is, and you really need to spend time to understand it. So when you take your first job and your boss telling you, hey, go do something unethical, you will have this choice, right? Maybe you will not feel this unethical, but maybe in a couple of years, after you learn more about how things work, you will feel like, no, it's not unethical. My suggestion for you will be to really asking yourself this question many, many, many times through your life. I strongly believe that if you will find a way to design for good, you will be happier, your family will be happier, society will be better off, your parents will be much more proud of you eventually, even if they don't understand at first why you do this less paying job or something. It is not an easy choice, but it's also a choice you can make and design for good. You're going to be in an industry in a year or two, right? I give this talk, similar talk, less intense, 5 years ago, and now I see in cities some things and experiences and places created by designers who were back then just students kind of considering this idea. And it makes me really excited that you have so much power. You're going to be this masters of design, going into the reality and trying to make ideas real. And maybe you will have opportunities to redesign what was designed before you. So what is wrong with electric cars? Well, one thing is cobalt, right? But another thing is that if you drive a Tesla in Hong Kong, you make more pollution than if you drive a diesel or gasoline in Hong Kong. Why is that? Anyone have idea why that? Well, because electricity comes from coal. And in Hong Kong today, we do not have any renewables, pretty much at all. So more than 80% goes from China. And in China, transition to gas even is not really happened yet, mostly it's coal. So if you just look at the numbers, just do the spreadsheet, a fancy greenwashing Tesla is more damage. But it's interesting because people who buy it feel better. I'm a green guy. First of all, I have a status, I have a Tesla. It's not the most expensive car, but it kind of looks good. It's almost like an iPhone. It gives you this feeling of superiority if you're not very smart. It makes you feel like I'm smarter than you, right? The rest of you. In Hong Kong, you don't need a car. So car is a toy for most of the people. We have like roughly 1.5 million listed signs. We have around 700,000 people driving cars. Half of those necessary for operation of the city, but half is just toys. Some of them are family cars. Some people live far away, but most of them just for show. So they're not even necessary, these cars. They pollute more. They kill people every day. Not on the road, but by pushing them into the mines, right? And you're not doing this directly. So when you buy a Tesla, you're kind of not responsible for that. And this is where you come into the design, regenerative design and design systems. When you design something, you might design it like this is a chair, right? I don't care, it's a chair. Give me the cheapest materials. Let's make it as efficient as possible. Let's solve the problem. I'm paid for that. I don't care. And this is how most of the business today operates. This is how most of the designers operate. You will do that as your career, and then there's going to be someone else responsible for social responsibility, right? And this someone else will define standards for how to be responsible, ethical. And they will create a committee, and they will spend 10 years discussing, and then maybe in 10 years they'll say, you know what, this material you use is not okay, let's use another one. This system is exceptionally delayed to react to the reality. Similar to education system, it's very slow in giving you what is real. The cycle is too slow. Gene is amazing, guys, that he's bringing you into what is right now, somewhere in Paris. But in general, unfortunately, education system will teach you what was back 15, 20 years ago when this professor was in the industry, right? Most of the professors, unfortunately, know big idea, but they don't know what is happening right now. Similar, most of the organizations which are done in design or entrepreneurship have no idea. So the reality is you cannot outsource this to somebody else. It's going to be you designer, or you product manager, or you marketer, making decisions and taking the stance. And if you will not do that, for real, nobody will do. You're going to influence your manager, your founder. You will sometimes manipulate them, scare them, so they feel responsibility. Or hopefully you'll be an ethical organization which does put this at the top and say, hey, how about we design for good? Even if you make this decision right now and say, for the rest of my life, I'm going to design for good. Well, it's not easy. You're going to remember this talk, some of you will, and you will maybe ask the question like, okay, am I designing for good as this guy told me, or am I designing for bad? So am I supposed to feel bad now that I'm not designing for good, or what? My argument is a bit different. My argument is, how might we find a way to do better, quickly? And a few things I discovered which are helpful are, first of all, you cannot really just think about it. You kind of have to feel into it. I worked with many, many startups in Hong Kong. When they go unethical, typically what happens with the funder doesn't feel good. But they think it's better for the bottom line, for the money, or to raise another round. So they will disconnect like this. They will not feel into that. They will get sick over time. They will go to Chinese doctor and ask, please fix that, because I know I'm right, but I'm not feeling good maybe, or something. It will manifest itself as pain. Eventually it could be really bad. If you look at many founders, they do have early diseases eating them from inside. And I saw it myself in many people, including this guy I just talked about who used to be my boss. He was very sick, despite being exceptionally smart, good with people, good with money. But kind of also choosing to kill himself slowly, painfully, through not being ethical. So what do you do? So you iterate, and you make iterations as short as possible. So okay, you go into the business and you build something. You may focus on what you know at the time when you design that. And then you learn more. Every time you engage in any project, you will learn a little bit more about supply chain, about materials, about business models, about consequences. If you look carefully at what you're learning from that, you will be able to understand what might be better. It's very, very hard in the current state of our society, which was over roughly last 300 years, was really driven by focusing on what is right now and ignoring the consequences. Pretty much the whole economy today is designed in a way that you just find someone who is weak and you dump your trash on them. The biggest countries in the world today, they're screaming because of the amount of trash developed countries just dumping on top of them. We do pretty much the same with the seas, with the soils. In China, 15% of all arable lands every year, not applicable for agriculture anymore. If it will continue like that, China will starve unless China will find a way to abuse somebody else, like Africa. Damn. So when you engage in systems like that, it may feel really bad, because it seems to be like, no matter where you go, this building, your car, internet, your laptop, your iPhone, all of these things are part of an ethical system. Well, you can have a choice to influence that and move it toward a better system. And it could be tough. You may move in the wrong direction. But if you work with other people, you feel into it. If you relax into that, you feel what is right. And I basically encourage you to do that. Then another trick is if you have a diverse team with different experiences, if you put people from different countries, people from very different training, people who survived through different conditions, worked on themselves, clear and not dramatizing trauma, but present in a space and connect with this kind of topics, able to be both emotionally connecting and intellectually honest. It's not easy. You need to be intellectually honest and you need to connect with your emotions. If you do both, and you have a team, even 2-3 people like that, cherish that. These people will be exceptionally important in your life. They will open doors for you. They will create opportunities, and together you might figure out how to design for good. Any questions? Thank you for coming tonight. I think it was a really cool talk. I don't know about this one. I didn't watch it yet, right? So I will check it out later.
What was the book you mentioned before?
Art of Gathering?
Oh,
Priya Parker. Are you on Discord?
yeah.
Cool. So just ask me a question there. I will send you direct link.
Thank you.
If any more questions like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I may not respond immediately, but if you're on Discord or if you're in WhatsApp with me, just ask questions. I'm also available on LinkedIn. And if ever in your career you will have this question, well, seek out to people who you believe in, have this good feeling about it. Check with them. Are you designing for good or not? And there's another meaning to that for me personally. I committed to design, like design for good. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in design. Because I believe that design can help you to change the world and make it better. Try to do that. This could be fun as well. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you, Gaspar. Are you on time?